Well, nice work, Megumi. It appears you have stayed off of demon timing. Fortunately, Yuta didn't. Big thank you to the $5 patron, Sin is Lancelot. And also, a very big thank you to our $25 patron, the Mr. Greed. Before I have a review of chapter 173 of Jujutsu Kaisen, please in favor leave your all on the chapter in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure to hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below, and I would appreciate any support you'd be able to give. Now, let's get into it. What's up, guys? I got a pencil here, and here we are to review chapter 173 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is known as Tokyo #1 Colony 13, aka... we got some big shifting going on right here, right now. But honestly, let's hop right into the chapter itself. So we open up, we get to see Reggie's dying words. Obviously, I didn't think he was going to be taken out just purely by the dog bite. But it seems like he is. I mean, to be fair, he is human. And divine dog, I bet he do hurt when he bite. So losing a whole chunk of your shoulder while bleeding out probably is not the best feeling out there. So I definitely get why Reggie's getting up out of here. However, there are a few interesting things to note here. One, Reggie does finally admit that, yeah, you outplayed me. You got me to think the dog was gone. You didn't just run away into the gymnasium. You lured me in there. You played me with the domain. You did the dog. You did the pool. You're a smart dude. I'll give you that. You're a smart dude. And I do like how Reggie is kind of like, is it weird to say humble? Is humble the right word? I guess it would be humble. He's like humble in his defeat, right? Like, and this isn't just his defeat. This is his death. Like, Reggie's getting up out of here right now. So he's really he's giving Megumi his props, which is unexpected. I don't know. I mean, I never considered Reggie to be petty. I mean, he's kind of petty. He did like run through 2 whole trucks into a gymnasium, but still, I didn't necessarily expect him to come down and be like, yeah, you know what, good job. You actually just outplayed me fair and square. Nice work. You played the sorcerer game essentially, and that's kind of impressive. Nice work, kid. I don't know. It's just weird to see, but I'm happy that he did it. And notably, Megumi admits something, since obviously Reggie's dying right here and doesn't seem like he's going to use any more of his like receipts or anything like that. Probably because he's soaked through. But still, he's like, oh yeah, by the way, I couldn't have even run away if I wanted to, because Nue cannot carry people for that long. And we get a little flashback to Itadori and Megumi running up the side of a building. And like, I get what you mean, Megumi, but you're lighter than Itadori. I think Itadori is noted to be like denser than your average human being. Obviously, he's stronger than your average human being, but like also he's just heavy for his frame. So I don't think this is Nue's fault. I feel like if you drop Itadori's extra weight, he could definitely carry you a few places, but obviously not forever. So I do get what Megumi means. Then, of course, we get to see Megumi ask the important questions like, yo, alright, I beat you, whatever, that's great and all, but what's your relationship with Tengen-sama? And interestingly enough, like, we had been going back and forth. I mean, to be fair, it wasn't like much back and forth, but we had been wondering, or at least maybe not maybe y'all were just demons and knew already, but I was wondering at least what time period was Reggie from, right? Because it seems like his quirk is Friday, but I'm not reviewing MHA. His terse technique it doesn't seem very applicable if it's from any older period. It seems like a very receipt reliant thing. He also seemed to be very modernly savvy, so I figured he was a modern sorcerer who just happened to have a lot of skill and just randomly came out of nowhere. But apparently, we see that he's apparently from Tengen's era. Or at least maybe not directly from Tengen's era, but at least he knows who Tengen is, and he calls him a hermit. Like, he said, the reason that I feel like he's from that era is he says, oh, I see, that hermit is still alive then. And obviously he knew all about Kenjaku and stuff like that. But I just thought, but then again, that didn't, I'm kind of dumb. Of course he would be an ancient sorcerer. How else would he know about Kenjaku and Tengen? Those are two beings that, unless you were a part of the sorcery world, which he appeared to not be, at least a not noted part of the sorcery world, you would have to know a little bit. You have to know someone who knows someone to know about those two. So I guess it would make sense that he's an ancient sorcerer. However, I know one of you already clowned on it, and I'm going to clown on it too. Like, what was his curse technique like back in the day? Like, did he have to burn scrolls? To be fair, I don't know much about the time period that he came from, but I feel like receipts are very convenient for his curse technique. I don't see how he was recreating contracts all the way back then. But we see that Megumi, thanks to all the information provided by Reggie, is like, okay, so I'm going to have to approach this more carefully now, because Tengen may be working with Kenjaku. And if that's the case, I'm not a fan of that, but at the same time, it seems like he doesn't know that much about Tengen, so he could be tricking me on his final words. And once again, I love how the mind games in JJK are constantly played, right? Because Megumi has this whole new perspective brought onto him, but he can't even tell if it's true or not. So he's really in this 50-50 mindset of, I know very little about Tengen, other than the fact that he's a respected source, and he told me this. However, this dude on his deathbed is telling me a different thing, and he has the same amount of viability because I know him just as much. In fact, Megumi probably knows Reggie more than he knows Tengen at this point. After you got a foot to your face, if you have ever taken another man's bare foot to your face, you know a whole lot more about that man than you do about the random alien dude you talked to once. So, I don't know. Is Tengen a threat? Is Tengen an op? I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. For some reason, I feel like, I mean, it's not like he has much control over the Star Platinum incident. That's a stand. Why did my brain automatically switch into JoJo's reference? But the star vessel that he had to have, that's not his fault that it died. But I feel like his evolution is a little bit shady. I don't know. I don't really, especially with what Reggie brought up, I don't really trust Tengen too much. That man, he's something else. But of course, I mean, nah, you wouldn't want to do that because the barriers will come. I was about to say, well, if the whole scenario is contingent on Kinjaku not getting the Tengen, why doesn't Tengen just... But the barriers, obviously. They need the barriers for cursing to even proper function. Function properly. But, of course, when Megumi's considering this, Reggie does something a little bit, once again, chivalrous, humble, strange. I'll go with strange, because he literally says, Kogane, send all my points to this guy. And... which he does. He gives up 41 points to Megumi. And I mean, it's cool and all. I mean, it's not petty. Like, if I was Reggie, not gonna lie, even if I am a reincarnation of a previous sorcerer, I'm being petty. I'm keeping my darn points and I'm just disappearing. You can hold this 5. I ain't giving you the full 41. What do I look like? But hey, apparently he just got it. And not gonna I mean, I guess it's just a matter of respect thing, right? Because the same thing technically happened with Itadori, except Itadori got essentially 101 points because he got the rule out of Higuruma, and then Higuruma gave him that 1 extra point in order to make sure that his curse technique didn't get distracted. Which I wonder, see, they have been vague about curse technique extraction, but I'm assuming that just means murder. But if that means murder, like, would Sukuna allow that? Would he allow himself? I mean, he'd probably be happy if Itadori died, because he'd just take over the body. So, yeah, who knows? Because I was thinking, like, if they try to do a curse technique removal or restriction or whatever on Itadori, wouldn't they just have to take out Sukuna? And wouldn't that be kind of difficult? I mean, I know Sukuna may not be the strongest of strongest right now with only 15 fingers, but still, 15 fingers Sukuna was, like, casually boxing up Jogo, and Jogo was no joke, despite him being joked on by Sukuna and Gojo. But still, I feel like it'd be kind of difficult to restrict that man. But regardless, Megumi got the points, and of course, Megumi is also just like me. He's like, yo, I mean, I'm not complaining, but what are you doing? And Reggie is like, whatever, you know, I'm trying to die anyway. It's my last good deed. I don't really care. And apparently, he wants a little something from Megumi, right? He's like, yo, whatever. I'm here for the fun of it. I'm just an onlooker. Kenjaku and I, we made a deal, but we aren't exactly the best of friends. We had a contract. He completed his end of the contract. I can't complete my end of the contract because I'm missing an ear and I'm bleeding out. So, sucks to suck. I'm going to just keep it pushing. Not going to lie. Thought this whole thing would be a bit more interesting, but obviously it ain't. I'm finna die. So, just do me a favor, homeboy. In exchange for them 41 points, you know, after I've died and you got that extra bonus 5, let fate toy with you, become a clown, and die. So to be fair, Reggie was a bit petty in the end, but he was still nice enough, you know, right? Like a little mental attack isn't gonna do much, especially considering the mental attack isn't even much of an attack. It's just like, do you and die. It's kind of fine, because regardless of whether Reggie said that or not, Megumi was gonna have fate toy with him. Who knows in which way? Becoming a clown is interesting. I wonder if that's just a reference to Takado, who we see later on in this chapter, or whatever. But of course, the then die part is important, because whether it happens tomorrow or it happens 80 years from now, Megumi will eventually perish. But of course, we see Megumi has left Reggie to bleed out, and 5 points have been added to Kogane. Megumi's Kogane, because Reggie has officially died. So, Big rip to Reggie. I'm not gonna lie. For a character who, upon first sighting him all those weeks ago, I think it was that literally like that was like a 15 plus week gap. I'm pretty sure, if not even more. I'm not sure if Reggie was introduced pre or post hiatus, but it's been a minute since we had Reggie introduced in the narrative. So going from a character who I admittedly thought was a whole clown and wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of, to a character who admittedly gained my respect after a really good fight, really good tactics, a really interesting curse technique. Shout outs to Reggie. Big rips to my boy. He'd definitely be up there in the tier list, especially compared to a lot of characters. Like, I'm just thinking, I'm like remodeling the tier list in my head right now. But yeah, he's definitely up there. But speaking of Takada, we do have an explosion go off in a gigantic building. And notably, this explosion is pretty darn big. Like, sure, it doesn't level the entire building it's on, but still, it blows a pretty massive explosion. Like, Bakugo would kind of be impressed with this. And of course, well, I've been making MHA reference because it's Friday and I'm used to recording MHA. But we get to see that Takada's fight is still going on, and out of nowhere, we see our boy just come in with the detonation. Hazanoki. Is it Hazanoki? We had a whole conversation about Hazanoki. Yeah, Hazanoki is still fighting Takada, right? And he leaps out of his own explosion. It's just like, did I get him? And Takada, like, admittedly, I feel like Takada is still weird. Like, I definitely get, it's weird. Let me think about this. Like, it seems like, what am I thinking? It seems like Gege wanted to have a joke character so badly, but knew that they couldn't not incorporate him into the plot in some way. So they had Takaba stall out this other guy while the main fight between Reggie and Megumi was going on, because that was the fight that was more interesting to the readers. Like, no offense, but, well, I mean, this isn't spoiled. You read the chapter, but their fight mostly gets skipped. It's mostly off screen. And like I said last chapter review, I'm fine with that. I don't think this battle was going to be anything that I was going to be much invested in at all. Just considering I care little to nothing about either of these characters. And who knows, they could have gotten the Reggie treatment or the Higuruma treatment, where they're like, at first not that interesting or like not necessarily that appealing, but then after a lot of exposure, I end up liking them a lot. And who knows, that could have been the case. However, kind of glad that this was skipped over. I feel like it would have kind of killed the pacing if we had to get invested completely into two stranger characters rather than having one character already somewhat invested in the case of Itadori and Yuta, Itadori and Megumi, versus having to just develop and evolve two characters that we have no interest in at all. So, kind of fine with that. But speaking of, it seems very interesting, right? Because Takaba, he leaps out the building with Hazanoki, but when Hazanoki goes to hit him, like, he literally swings on him, and Takaba is suddenly slimy, right? Like, he's not like he's burning or covered in ash after being hit with an explosion, which he probably should have been. He may have avoided it, but still, he shouldn't be, like, literally slimy. And of course, we see that Hazanoki is wondering, like, why is he suddenly covered in lotion, especially considering they probably weren't in a lotion building, and Takaba implies that it's sauce. But, like, what sauce are there clear sauces? I'm trying to think, like, what sauces are so, can you rub honey mustard into your skin? I don't know. Like, I mean, he doesn't have much skin showing, but even still, can you rub honey mustard into a spandex suit? I don't know. But we see that Hazanoki is like, yo, what the heck is happening? Because nothing seems to work. Like, he literally has sacrificed multiple body parts repeatedly, and according to him, Takaba should have been dead 5 times over already, but he's still alive with the only injury being, like, a hairdo mishap. So that's pretty impressive if you ask me. You know, I think that's pretty darn good. But actively concerning for Hazanoki, because obviously he's like, I will never win this fight. It doesn't matter, because even if he's not using reverse curse technique, I am, so I'm probably running low on curse energy soon enough, and I won't be able to win. What is happening right now? But then, of course, his Kogane pops up and is like, yay, yo, hey, to say it, Ready-sama, that man's up out of here. And Hazanoki's like, oh, deuces. And I guess, see, I wonder, once again, Hazanoki, he may also be like a past day sorcerer, because I think he has to be, right? He and Reggie obviously teamed up. They were the one asking, are you modern or old? And obviously reverse curse technique is nowhere near as common. Like, what, we have 3 users of it? And I don't know, I'm trying to think. Like, in the modern day, you have Gojo, you have Shoko, and then you have, that's it. Like, I can't necessarily think of anyone who's not a curse being able to reuse reverse curse technique. So Hazanoki, that's likely just a perk from an older era that sort of got lost with time. So, hey, it's great that he has it, but obviously he's just done with the fight, because I guess Reggie, his partner in crime, he's gone, and so is the rest of their group. So there's no point in really sticking around and fighting anymore, because he's not going to get any backup, and obviously he's not done any damage to Takaba, so might as well just call it a day. And I don't like Takaba. I guess he finally remembers his purpose. He's like, oh yeah, I was fighting this dude to get his points. And we see as Takaba goes on to trail after him that Takaba's curse technique is comedian, and it allows him to manifest situations he imagined are funny into reality. And it is apparently an ability effective even against Satoru Gojo. It's just that he doesn't know about it. Now, like, never, ever, ever give anyone with a piece of common sense this ability. Like, I'm not sure if it has to be genuinely funny, but like, if I could just manifest. So I wonder if he can manifest. No, it says manifest situations. So if I found the idea of Satoru Gojo just existing on the sun, hilarious, right? Without his curse technique activated, like just regular strongest Satoru Gojo on the sun, would that happen if I had the comedian? Would that just instantly happen? Like, and it appears like, I mean, let me think, right? I keep saying right, but Megumi was running low on curse energy. That's why he didn't want to use domain. Reggie, that's the thing. Like, at least these 3 have shown no real limit to their curse energy. And while I can kind of get why Takaba's doesn't, because I guess his curse energy is sort of like infinite. Like, he wouldn't ever imagine himself in a situation where his curse energy is running out. And he probably barely understands the system as it is. So that makes sense why he doesn't necessarily know about it, or his curse energy isn't running too low. However, Reggie and Hazanoki, they were kind of just throwing out their reverse curse techniques and their curse techniques pretty willy-nilly. And that's pretty darn impressive. They must have like massive curse energy or reserves. So pretty darn good. I hope we never see Takaba again. I hate to say it, like, usually I'm not one for like one-off plot characters. Like, oh, I introduced this character solely to stall another character in order for me to have a 1v1 between 2 characters I actually care about. Like, usually I'm not for that. But I think if you leave Takaba in the story for too long, then you're just going to start wondering why he doesn't fix every problem, especially if he's apparently effective against Satoru Gojo of all people. So I hope he just wanders off into the abyss, never to be seen again. Not gonna lie, I don't care if he's just a one-off. No, actually, you know what? I want to see him versus Gojo, and I want to see him versus Yuta. That's it. If we're gonna have to have anything else with this character, please just put him up against like the 2 strongest in the verse. I just really want to see that. But speaking of the strongest in the verse, we're gonna flip to some of the weakest in the verse. Whoa, in the verse. What was gonna come out of my mouth? Like, usually whenever I make grammatical or like speaking errors, I know what 2 words fuse themselves together in my mind, but I don't know what fused when I went to say what word I just said. I don't even remember what word I just. Jeez, help! But regardless, we see Remy is on the run, and like, Gege, you have a pretty good track record for female characters, or just not necessarily. Forget female characters. You have a good track record for characters in general. Sure, Takaba's a bit weird. He's a bit special. He's a bit strange. But regardless of that, like, most of your characters have been independent, have their own goals. So you know what? Never mind. I guess he's afforded one, right? Like, it's okay to have Remy just be a or hyper dependent on other people character, because why not? You know, once like everything in the narrative was sort of just being built up to the Reggie fight, right? Like, that, essentially the rest of the cast was salad dressing up to that point. None of them really mattered if you squinted at it the right way. So having Remy be used as, once again, just a tool to test out Megumi's morality, I think that works out. Like, it's fine. I'm not gonna complain. So when we see that she's like, she meant to be like the sweet innocent lamb, always being captured and used by the wolf because she's pretty and they'll take care of everything and she doesn't have to think. Like, you know, it kind of annoyed me because, you know, I like, I don't know, I always like my characters with a bit more spice to them. But to be fair, she was never meant to be a character, I suppose. That sounds bad. Is that bad? Like, well, I speak from purely a narrative purpose, right? Like, on a narrative level, I don't think Gege ever intended to use her beyond the functions she served within the narrative. Like, she was built to be a plot device. That's what I mean. I'm not saying she didn't deserve to be a character and stuff like that. But, of course, Wolf-san, the equivalency she makes to all men in the world, and yeah, whatever, it ends up being Divine Dog. And, I love how hauntingly Divine Dog is drawn here. Like, it's literally drawn like a hungry animal, like ready to consume her. And I really appreciate that. I don't know why. Like, it's always good to get those perspective shifts, right? Because when you're following characters as your protagonist, regardless of how like crazy their powers are, how intimidating it is, it's always good to get that shift in perspective to remind you that, oh yeah, one of our main characters is literally wielding monsters. And the other main character literally has a demon inside of him. Like, those shift in perspectives where you get to see like normal people or slightly above average people run into the monsters that roam the streets that happen to be our main characters. It's really, really cool. And we see that as Divine Dog goes to, you know, get them 5 points like a good boy, a certain image pops up and is like, yo, that's no good, Megumi. And just like that, Divine Dog disappears in the shadow. And Remy's last words, I'm assuming in the entire narrative, I don't think, once again, unless Gege proves me wrong, because to be fair, he proved me wrong with Reggie. I was not ready to like Reggie at all, but now he's not one of my faves. I like him a lot, but he's not one of my faves. But he did a lot better than I expected. So who knows? Maybe Remy will come back and be viable one day. Though I think she will just get off-screen death if she ever even gets mentioned again. But for the test in Megumi's morality, we see that he's on demon time, as he mentioned all those chapters ago. He's willing to get points the old-fashioned way, just like his father, if you're being real. But he's not about to become a full-fledged monster, right? Like, by taking that final step and just senselessly killing Remy for those 5 points, it wouldn't have been worth it in the grand scheme of things. To him. To me, just get her about it. She tried to kill you how many times? Like, it'd be one thing if Remy was like a specifically non-aggressive character, but she literally used her spear hair to stab you in the back. After she physically stabbed you in the back, after mentally and philosophically stabbing you in the back when she turned you into Reggie. So I don't know, Divine Dog would have gotten a free snack there, but that's just me. But we get to see that Megumi, on the verge of exhaustion, is like, just be quiet, sister, and then drops. And once again, man's exhausted. That's the only thing, right? Like, I get that Reggie was a very important person to take out right then and there. I highly doubt if you left Reggie alone or even escaped, that would have been good to keep him running around because of just how dangerous he seemed to be. But now, he just falls and collapses in an alleyway. And now he runs into this is like a two-sided thing. Like, I'm not sure what the angel's going to do with him. Because she can negate curse techniques, but we don't know the full extent of that. Does that mean she can like erase them completely? Could she hypothetically erase the 10 shadows technique from Megumi? I have no clue, but she's here, which is a good thing. Like, they were looking for her. What were their main objective? They was looking for her so she could cancel out the technique that's keeping Gojo trapped. And something else. Oh, yeah, and to save Megumi's sister. Those were the two things. So at least, unless she's, like, evil and just, I don't know, tries to box Megumi up or kill him or something like that, we got one of the objectives solved. Well, not solved, but we have one of the main keys in front of us. We just need to solve that problem. We have to stick the key into the hole in order to figure out whether or not she's going to be willing to help. And hope she doesn't kill Megumi in her sleep. However, kind of excited to see her. I'm not going to lie. We're going to see her for a while. At least I'm assuming because of what the end of the chapter implies. But it's cool to see that one of our objectives is met. And I'm assuming if she does try to do anything to Megumi, Itadori will pop up, considering he's still mostly fresh and he'll hunt or fight her off in order to get Megumi what he needs. But, of course, we see that we're pretty much done with the Tokyo Colony #1, and we're shifting to Tokyo Colony #2. And the narrator, once again, and I went over this, narrator is laying everything down on the table for us, right? There's like, okay, the situation in the Sendai city barrier has reached intense peak, far surpassing the one in Tokyo, and is developing in a swift, aggressive pace. And I really do like that. Like, despite all these barriers likely popping up at around the same time, oh my, despite these barriers all popping up at around the same time, what makes it interesting is that there's so much volatility, right? Because who knows, while one barrier may have some strong sorcerers but a whole ton of weak sorcerers, you could have a whole ton of strong sorcerers with a bunch of some mid-level sorcerers who are now teaming up and forming alliances. And that seems to be the case in the Sendai barrier, where there are these beings, the big four, if you will, or big four, which is Delu. Well, I wanted to say his name for much longer, but Deruv Lakdawala, who owns 91 points, which is kind of snapped, I'm not going to lie. Apparently, this is his second incarnation, right? So he is one of the people brought back by Kenjaku. We made a deal with him all those years ago. And apparently, he has 2 types of self-sufficient Shikigami, and he can use their tracks as a domain. Now, I wonder what that means. Well, it doesn't matter. But for a curse technique like that, considering he was able to control the entire archipelago during the Civil War of WA, I have no idea what that is. But it appears like this guy could have hypothetically just cast a domain expansion all over an area if he can use their track. Well, it depends. He says tracks as a domain. That doesn't imply domain expansion, but still pretty darn cool. Then we get to see that Ichigori Ryu owns 77 points, and he has highest cursed energy output. So, not gonna lie, just upon seeing this guy, and of course, I have Bleach fresh in my head. I'm rereading it again just so I can properly write out my review for it. But it appears this guy definitely gives me Stark vibes. I mean, Stark didn't smoke, but the number one Espada, the chill, laid back attitude, the super high curse energy output, likely high amounts of curse energy, the design in general. I don't know. Really, it's a really neat design despite being pretty darn simple. It's just a leather fur jacket, which is basic enough with a comb over. He kind of looks like a West Side Story character now that I think about it. But yeah, it's cool to see him. I'm interested to see how he interacts, because if he has the highest curse energy output, he's got to have high levels of curse energy, right? Because he probably doesn't want to be a glass cannon. But then we get to see another one, Udo Takako. I'm not sure how to say her name, but we'll just call her Uro. She has 70 points, and she is apparently the former captain of the Getsu, whatever. She had a unit, and her curse technique allows her to control this guy. Really cool imagery by Akatame on all these different fronts, like the man in the barn, the man on the roof of something, and the woman in the sky. I see the way he senses it though. You smart, Akatame. You smart. I like what you're doing there, Gege. But then of course we have the final one, which is Kururushi, which is a spirit, actually a cursed spirit that owns 54 points, and it was released from Kenjaku's spirit manipulation. So we know that Kenjaku is using the entire supply that Geto had stored up, plus only probably more cursed spirits that he caught himself. But it's interesting to see that this special grade that he apparently had already registered is its own real player in the culling game. Cursed spirits can collect points too. So pretty darn interesting, but it's dormant for now. However, while having all 4 of these superpowers in here is very, very cool, obviously that's going to lead to a stalemate in power, because no one's going to really want to fight each other if everyone's relatively around the same strength. They have their own strengths and weaknesses. You don't want to risk that. However, it didn't last very long, because a certain someone has pulled up, and we see the first dude, what's his name? Dhruv. He gets I would call it bisected, but it seems like Yuta was on that menace energy, because he sliced him once across the torso and then sliced him directly across the gut. So yeah, Yuta's here, and he currently owns 35 points. Now, notably, we don't know what kind of timing Yuta's been on, but at a bare minimum, we know Yuta ain't killing civilians. So he's had to have run into at least 6 other sorcerers at this point. and he decided to run hands. However, you gotta realize how immaculate this hands running must have been, because he ran hands so good that this is the first splat of blood he's got on him. Like, his entire fit is perfectly clean. He is the only thing that's dirty. That's a quick smudge wipe. So he's just been on that kind of energy. I'm super excited to follow Yuta because we haven't gotten that much of him, and I'm super excited to see him. I'm excited to see him outside of this fight with the new main character in Itadori. I'm excited to see him out of Jujutsu Kaisen 0. So, and I'm glad that he's getting the hype he deserves. Right, like, after the night parade of 100 demons, that man got his special grade status so quickly because he is a prodigy second only to Gojo Satoru. And it's time. I'm hyped. I hope some of these people provide him a challenge, though. Because the chapter goes out of its way to specify that in the modern era, right? In this modern era, he's only second to Gojo. So I think that means at least some of these people should provide a challenge if they were like the prodigy or the greatest in their respective era. That's when I think it'll get interesting. It'll get spicy. However, this is another 10 out of 10 chapter, right? I was going to complain a little bit about Remy's portrayal in this chapter. Once again, I gotta think narratively, right? Like, I thought narratively through the Takada fight or Takaba fight where most of it got off screen, but really, for a chapter that covers a lot, it's very well paced. It covers a lot in good detail, and it sets up essentially the next portion of the arc. Because you got to realize we had Reggie's conclusion, we had the conclusion between the Takaba and Hazenoki fight, we got the conclusion of Remy's entire character, we got a revelation about Megumi's character, we got the reveal of the angel, then we got the reveal of the whole new situation, and then one of the people was already cut down by Yuta, and we got the introduction to Yuta. So we have, that's like 7 big things that happen in this chapter. And the chapter is, once again, not even that long. Like, it's only, I mean, well, to be fair, 19 pages is a lot. But regardless, it's a really, really good chapter with a whole ton of nice, juicy, meaty content in it that's appropriate for the chapter. We got a whole ton of hype building up for the next chapter. We got hype building up for future parts of the story. Everything in this chapter was fuego. However, those are my thoughts. Please tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Also, you got a Patreon down below. I would appreciate any support you can give me. Thank you guys once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, writing off.